Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan, Sue Rose Minahan, and this is Talk Cosmos on July 5th. Just after the United States has its big celebration, and other countries are certainly enjoying summer. We are in the throes of the sun in Cancer. But for this event, we are talking about Leo, Jupiter, that just entered Leo. And it's the planet of expansion. Growth makes everything it touches big. And we're entering that generous, creative world of Leo, which we'll talk a lot about. But just to give a little energy, it's also adding a lot to our air and fire already. But perhaps that's what, of course, Leo needed and wanted, so it could make things that it touched really get to us. I mean, we can understand how to work with it, but that's what we'll talk about here too. Ultimately, it's a joyful sign, and it's a good thing to try to emphasize on that. With no more said, we are now ready for our guest episode. Thank you.
In the first week of the month, Talk Cosmos ignites a conversation exploring planet cycle relationships in a cosmos to understand their archetypal consciousness and meaningfulness for individuals and the collective. Blending world events, mythology, and philosophy, these are the astrologers identifying the deeper impact of the planets buzzing in our daily lives.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
Plus, a special guest who we will introduce in just a short moment.
And as the ancient Hermetic code reveals,
as below, so above. As above, so below.
Hi, Kay. I think you're there. You're popping up. Hello. Yeah.
Hi, Sue.
Yeah, I'm so glad you joined us for this event because it's really a exciting thing. We're both evolutionary astrologers from our studies, so that it's going to be an interesting, as the nodes are changing, which we'll talk about, all the possibilities. Well, let me introduce you to people. Kay Taylor is very well known, actually, in the entire circles of astrology. She is her particular, although we'll center on her particular site, which is ktaylor.com. And she has a YouTube channel, which is Kay Taylor CA, since to differentiate her from other folks. And of course, she's associated as the president with OPA. That's the Organization for Professional Astrology.com. Her school is a Soul Path School. She is the visionary astrologer, the teacher. She's an international lecturer at conferences and a full-time international consultant. How the time gets coordinated is masterful. An author of Soul Pathway and chapters in several other books. Essential Astrology published just, I believe, do I have that right? 2027?
That's when then that one will come out. But we're actually in the process right now of revising and expanding the Professional Astrologer book, and that will be republished in the next month or so.
Excellent. So, in addition, Kay is the president of UAC this year, which is International Astrology Conference,
United Astrology Conference.
Yes.
That's the largest conference in the world, usually held every 4 years.
Yes, it's been 8. amazingly. But thank you for helping to navigate that along with Laura Nalbandian. It is huge. And last but not least, on the faculty and board of Kepler College, because Kay is in the process of implementing a new evolutionary astrology program that'll be fantastic, with all the other areas that Kepler College covers in so many different ways. So thank you, Kay, 100%.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be on your show, Sue.
Now, we both had slides, and some of these are from Kay's because she just gave a class in Jupiter and Leo with her school, Soul Path. And I love this slide. It so exemplifies, doesn't it? The Leon characteristic, the nobility, the pride, the joy.
The royal quality. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sovereignty. So that, depending on the world, it was 29 or the 30th, right at the full moon that we just experienced. But it is a 13-month. It's every year, which is actually stretches out because it goes into the next sign 13 months. And the pre-shadow will begin on September 16th. In the middle, about 17 degrees Leo. And then it actually doesn't go retrograde until December, just before Christmas, 12th and 13th. At the end of it, it's towards the end at 27 degrees Leo. And it continues until April. So that'll be a good 4 months after spring break or spring, equinox, back at 17 degrees Leo. And then we have a post-shadow end, period. So it really extends for a long time. That'll be up until July of next year, till it finally ends on July 26th, going into Virgo. But these areas are all about the growth and leadership. And I suppose here, just to have a conversation, to share that if in your chart, you might think, as we talk further, if you have a fixed sign, if your Jupiter is in Leo, you're having a return. What your nodes are, you might be having a nodal return, or a reverse if they're swapped, like North Node Leo instead of North Node Aquarius. And if you're in the fire signs, there's so many ways to look at it, whether it's activating or flowing, And we didn't even touch, did we, on Pluto, Kay?
No, we haven't touched on Pluto yet. No, but Pluto is always there.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it is
it's in Aquarius, so it will be, almost a year and a half before the nodes get to Pluto. So.
Oh, yes. Oh, I see. Yes.
Because they go backwards. So people need to know that if they're newer to astrology, that when the nodes come into a sign, they're coming in the 29th degree. And over a year and a half, basically, they align back down to zero. And so, Pluto in the next year and a half will get up to about, let's say, 8-9 degrees. And that's when the nodes will join with Pluto. But in the meantime, we've got plenty to talk about with Jupiter and Leo.
Yes. Yeah.
And the weirdness of the South Node in Leo and Jupiter and Leo at the same time. So I know we'll talk about that a little later.
It looks like the mirror of reflection will really come into us. And here we are. This is another one of your slides, right? Because it's a 12-year process. I mean, when it repeats back to its same, so that folks can recall perhaps some personal times during 2014 or just after. Those were rather benefic. I hate to say that word in a sense because I don't see things black and white, benefic or elsewise, but it expands because that was just before Uranus and Neptune squared. No, it was during that time. It's actually 2012 to 2015. Okay, I'm associating too many things.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I will say for me personally, when I look at that list of dates, major transitions happen in my life every one of those times, often involving moving. And and from one place to another. Or the 2014 was when I came into OPA organization in a big way, and that was a major transition, an expansion of my
Yes.
role in the world. So yes, I think when you take that slide and really look at it, and you'll understand that life is a spiral, and Jupiter in Leo now offers you an opportunity to keep working with some of the same themes that you can see were historical for you.
Important, because 2015 I began working with Maurice, and of course he was president at that time. So I too became aware and involved with OPA, going to the retreats, that they had different ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it did involve travel. I'm glad you brought that up. That's because, Jupiter with it does it. It's going beyond into the visions of the sky, the broadness, the bigness of it. Leo, this is another one of your slides, and evolutionary wise, there are different ways that we manifest things, and it's the whole transition of development from realizing the higher ways of expressing an energy to perhaps what we don't see because it's still in the shadow part.
Yeah, let me take a step back for a moment here and say that, when we're looking at something like a planet like Jupiter going into a new sign, that we can start with looking at what the planet's functions are. And as you mentioned, Jupiter expands what it touches. And normally in traditional astrology, that's considered benefic or beneficial or positive. But if Jupiter is expanding your Pluto-Saturn square, that's not necessarily going to feel very easy. There will be growth and philosophical advantage or improvement that probably comes from those more difficult experiences. And then when you look at the sign that it's in, you have an understanding of the way in which Jupiter is operating, and in your own personal chart where it's touching in, and the area of life that you're now being offered opportunities. Because one of the most important things about Jupiter and whatever sign it's in is that it brings opportunities. And you'll see from the slide that you showed a moment ago, Sue, that it's going zipping up. When it goes into that retrograde at the end of the year, it has gone almost through the whole sign of Leo. And what that tells us is that when Jupiter offers us an opportunity, if you take a look at it in your ephemeris, you'll see that maybe it's on a degree point for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And it's not like Pluto. Pluto keeps steamrolling over you until you get the lesson. Jupiter doesn't care if you get the abundance or the expansion or the gift that it's bringing. It's like, here's a gift. Whoops, you missed it. Oh, here's another gift. Oh, you didn't move fast enough. You need to have a sense of yourself and what you wish for, what you want, how you want to expand yourself. That you stop underestimating yourself and playing small. And also Jupiter can be a little grandiose. It can go too much. So now you take Jupiter that has this tendency to either be grand and optimistic and hopeful, or, small and hopeless and not necessarily taking you to your true beliefs. You put in a sign like Leo that, as you see, these qualities can be powerful and creative and loyal, royal, or can be shadowy, can be narcissistic and shameful and painful. So there's a whole range of the sign of Leo that we have choice in how we operate. And for each one of us, being mindful of what these qualities are and focusing on being in our creative power will help us get the best of this transit.
Yes, it is very true, because that generosity and love, which Leo exemplifies, is really, how far does that love go? Is it really going to the other person when they're in pain or whatever? It's a constant growth process. Yes. And that confidence you were bringing up is the leadership. I really think it's a great opportunity for us to realize that we have to take, and along with Chiron, which will show also having that self-worth, because they're in a square. The actual chart right now is activating that between Chiron that just went into Taurus and then Jupiter with Leo. So it's asking us to take stock and be bolder, without too much bravado, perhaps. I mean, it's a learning experience.
Right. We're asked with Jupiter and Leo to expand somewhat more than maybe we're a little comfortable with, but not too much where it's grandiose and inflated and greedy, and not just, putting up with what we always put up with and playing small. And then the square to Chiron in Taurus, Chiron indicates a wound we have that is not really accurate. That's how I think about it. It's a belief we have from our karmic experiences. And the belief of Chiron in Taurus is, I'm not secure, I'm not safe, there's not enough money. And that's interesting when it's in a square with Jupiter and Leo, because Jupiter and Leo says, I'm amazing, I'm fantastic, I'm abundant, I have more than enough of everything, and I can be generous to others. And Chiron and Taurus is like, no, be careful. Like, don't go for what you want now, because you might not make enough money. So, given that we're in a difficult, scary time right now around the world economy, this play back and forth in the square between the expansive urge and the contractive, be safe urge will be something that we all need to find a good creative balance to, because that's always the solution with a square, is how can you come up with a solution to bring them together creatively?
And to trust yourself. I think increasingly the universe is asking us to center within, to have that focus here of your own values. And that's, of course, everything with Taurus too, finding that, when it changes your belief system, that's a lot of Jupiter itself, is what's your belief system? And that can change as much as in Leo, it's a fixed sign. So it takes a little adjusting to get to that point, getting knocked in different areas.
Yeah. But one thing that is really important for people when they're understanding transits that I think not everybody always knows is that you need to look at your natal Jupiter primarily as the grounding foundation, because that tells you what your belief system was as you came into this life. And you're constantly working on expanding that and bettering that energy. And then as Jupiter goes around the chart and spends about a year in every sign, then you get to understand Jupiterian energies, beliefs, philosophies, hope or hopelessness, expansion in that sign and in that part of the chart. And then that comes back to your basic belief system. And as you say, there's always the evolution and the expansion and shifting and changing of our beliefs to be more authentically true for us. Because a lot of times our first beliefs are steeped in karma and our family and cultural imprinting.
Yeah, it's that groundwork. Amazingly, this particular transit, through various group conversations, I've realized, is opposing my Jupiter in Aquarius that is at the apex, my focal planet of a yod. So it's going to be, it's exciting.
Yes.
Discovering all this. Here is the actual chart, June 30th at 1:52 a.m. Eastern Time, choosing Washington, D.C. I could have done an Aries point or London with Greenwich, but here it is. And so houses may relate or may not, but the planets, they all stay the same. Amazingly, Chiron in this chart, of course, because it just ingressed on the 19th of June, recent, so it's moving slow, and showing that square that we were just discussing, but it's right on the ascendant too, which is a healing for all of us, engaging, because I will add one thing with Pluto, I mean, not with Pluto, but with Jupiter, because it is our beliefs. And and Jupiter, well, Sagittarius more needs to express itself. It's not like Gemini that needs to talk, but it needs to express itself and voice its opinions. And I'm realizing that because it's in a fire sign, and Sagittarius, its own home sign, is also a fire sign. So it's the Aries, it's a fire, the triad there. That what can happen is, it's like, okay, Benjamin Franklin, it's 4th of July coming up, and we were watching, it wasn't PBS, I think it's Netflix, about these many episodes about the revolution 250 years ago. And Benjamin Franklin said, well, when you get in a group of people, that everybody brings their baggage. In other words, you've got to work with their beliefs that could be totally different than the suggestion that you might be coming up with, meaning that if you're expanding with a Leo idea, I have this confidence to present what I'm thinking. I have the self of Aries, that I am myself, and I'm going to voice the belief that it can absolutely be conflicting with another person's, like you said, their assumed or sense of beliefs, without understanding that Sagittarius way, right, of grasping your points, that maybe would be different than what they just are working with. So it really requires a lot of interest to keep the conversation going, rather than just arguing.
Rather than arguing. And there's been way too much arguing going on in this world lately.
I know.
But, coming into expansion, and remember the opposite of any sign considered to be the polarity point, or the medicine for it. So, Jupiter in Leo, the medicine is the sign of Aquarius. So if the Jupiter in Leo is getting argumentative and, I know everything and I know what's good for me, and therefore I think it's good for everybody else.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Going to Aquarian energy and that rational centeredness on humanity, groups, the tribe, what everybody needs to be equal and equitable, and not so much all about me. And that is going to be something that we grapple with this year while Jupiter is in Leo. It's like, are we living with, a few trillionaires running everything? What do the people need? How can we find healing and balance in these, really challenging times?
Yeah, it's excellent. I love that. Realizing that the whole, it's strong until it overpowering, and it needs that complementary perspective, which Jupiter really, thankfully, will accept, that new perspective. Before I jump to the next slide, I just wanted to point out, for those that may be that the nodes right now, as they're beginning to go into the next later in the month, which will be Leo and Aquarius, are at 0 degrees, exactly what we were talking about. We have some time here to go into what is being spoken of throughout the entire astrological community, what Andre Barbault, a French Barbault. Yeah, thank you. Right pronunciation. Barbault brought to general attention, and I think various of us have noticed as we've gone forward because we've had this mini grand trine between the outer planets, which is very exceptional. And then lo and behold, on the 19th to the 22nd, not only will those outer planets, but the moon and Jupiter are going to be all in this tremendous basket, as he called it, or cradle of, and with the moon, it'll be which I'll show you, grand trine, but it's so dynamic. And I was thinking, Jupiter is really the linchpin or the signal jump setting. Yes.
Yeah, because we've got the outer planets in the trine sextile for years, actually, slowly moving. Last year they were around 1, 2 degrees, and now they've been already in 3 to 4 degree range. And as the years go up, they're moving up together. But here, what I call the July extravaganza,
I like that.
we have Jupiter, as you say, is kind of, it adds a very strong expansive quality to it. It adds a corner on the mystic rectangle, which is the Jupiter to the moon and Pluto and Neptune. And the moon, the moon sets things off. And you got a long-term transit. You don't have the results of it every single day over and over. But what will happen is when you get something like this, where Jupiter opens up the energy and the moon comes in and lights it up, and that's where you get action and activity. And what I would say is that even though there are some astrologers who are imagining that this could be a very, difficult experience. That's not what Andre Barbeau thought. He thought that this was sort of the beginning of a renaissance, but it always comes down to our choice. And basically what I would say about this alignment of planets is that if we work together, if enough of us come together and create a critical mass that want transformation and healing and people coming together, then all of these planets working together have a tremendous amount of power to suddenly shift things in a new direction that we might have thought was impossible before.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
I love the idea of focusing on the possibilities, because I'm just thinking to myself, you take any egg situation, you put one and one together and boink, it's exponential. It defies the logic. It's like the old ads on TV. But the point being, with Jupiter expanding this outer planets with Uranus, of sudden activity of the moment, of Neptune, of breaking all the barriers of the unknown, and Pluto with the cathartic or the composting of soil, or to get to the light, to find out what treasures are, the uncovering things. It defies logic. I think that's what I'm trying to say, that yes, change is, we always like to be in control. And I think when people have changes coming at them, it takes a little more time to adjust to it. Because somewhere in your chart, you have something that is set. We're not all flexible, and we're not all cardinal either.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what I would say to everybody who's thinking about their own chart right now, any planet or angle that you have at 4 degrees, or even 2 to 6, is going to be very affected by this. And it doesn't even almost matter whether it's a so-called soft or easy aspect or a hard aspect, because these outer planets have powerful effect even in the soft aspects. But understanding what is being asked of you, what are you asked to open up to come more into your spiritual path, to wake up, to be authentic and free. Pluto, to go deep, to see what your unconscious motivations are and flip the script and transform into a more powerful way of working. Take the benefits and the opportunities of Jupiter. The other thing that's interesting about this chart is that Saturn has moved on. Remember, we had Saturn, Neptune align in February. Saturn has moved to 14 degrees, and it's in an exact sextile with Mars at 14 at this time. And Saturn and Mars build life out, build the structure, and Mars makes it happen fast. So Mars goes fast in asserts our will and desire, and Saturn builds heaven to earth. So that's also, even though it's not part of the 4-degree aspect, for those two to be in a flowing sextile and being able to work together is another indication of how we can experience change in our individual lives and then reflect it out into the world as well.
Beautiful. We will take a little short getaway. Folks, just come right back because I have Kay Taylor here with me, and we're talking about this possibilities ahead of us that we're all engaged in. Jupiter and Leo. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. Currently, we are in the period of Cancer. By leaving a cycle based on connecting mental communication to the external, the energy of Cancer involves emotions, which create our personal story through our emotional associations and attachments. As a cardinal water sign that is nurturing, Cancer needs to process emotions in one's own internal rhythm of cycles in order to complete an evolution.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, it's our energy balancing show with best practitioner Linda Rasmussen. We'll take your phone calls, and Linda will help you and your animal friends with emotional, behavioral, and physical issues. Hope you can join us for your free remote treatments. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Need help getting started with self-help? You came to the right place. Alternative Talk, 1150.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I have Kay Taylor from Berkeley in the San Francisco area. Her website is ktaylor.com. And she's also the president of OPA, that's Organization for Professional Astrology, org. And she has this wonderful school, Soul Path Wisdom Community. Perhaps you want to tell us a little bit about it.
Well, my Soul Path School, I teach evolutionary astrology from the beginning, from an intro class through relationship astrology, transits, progressions, figuring things out. I add psychosynthesis of spiritual psychology that helps actually heal the astrology hard aspects. I teach consulting skills. I teach intuition for astrologers. So I put that all together in my own program. And a lot of this is what Kepler College has asked me to create as a curriculum for them. But Kepler, of course, is very academic. There's a lot of homework and hard work to do to get a good certificate or diploma with Kepler. But I am building that out and finding wonderful faculty people to be teaching the classes, and that is amazing. The Soul Path Wisdom Community is a community organization that I have within my whole process of teaching, and I teach a free class every Friday morning, usually on astrology, but sometimes on intuition or psychosynthesis. And there's also ways for people to connect. We have like a healing circle where people can suggest that they've got some, a cat or a dog or a friend who needs healing, and people work together on that. A book and film club. Just so many ways that we can connect with each other. And so that is on the homepage of my website that people can find out more about the community.
That's exciting. I love that. Yeah. And then here too, so you have on July 11th, an intuitive life.
Yes, that's an intuitive development class that's specifically connected to the challenges we're going on in the world and making sure that our intuition is strong and supports us to stay grounded in the heart. And we're working with, opening up the different chakra systems to be intuitive. And I'm teaching consulting skills both virtually and pre-UAC in person. And coming in the fall, there's the intuitive skills for astrologers. There's the introductory course at Kepler in evolutionary astrology, life changes, where you're tracking the planets in relationship to themselves, like Saturn returns and Uranus opposition and things like that.
The cycles.
Yes. So there's always lots of classes on my website to take. I am endlessly teaching, and as someone who has Jupiter in Gemini opposite Mars in Sagittarius, and I will be lecturing a course at UAC. I got a couple of great talks that I'll be doing there.
They really feed each other, the Mercury and Jupiter. It's like learning a little bit more information, expanding and changing your beliefs, and teaching. It's really beautiful. About the consulting skills, not to take too much time, but does an astrologer need to have so many months or years of actual consulting experience to
No, not
participate?
at all.
You can just
No.
do that.
No, with the OPA peer groups, we ask that people have
that's
6
right.
months of paid consulting experience. But it's actually a great idea when somebody is a senior student in astrology and they're wanting to gain skill in working with people and confidence. It really helps people understand how to work with a client in a way that resonates with the client, touches their heart, and brings the information across in a way that the client can truly access it.
Yes.
Yeah. And people who have been astrologers for 30 years have said, wow, it's great. I wish I had known this 30 years ago. So yeah, we really are able to reach in for people at all levels of astrology. As long as you know the basics of signs, planets, a little bit of synthesis, you can take this course and really gain a lot of benefit from it.
Last question. Is it somewhat similar to NCGR's? I think it was NCGR's, or was it ESAR? That
ESAR has a consulting skills program. And and I was a consulting skills trainer for ESAR originally, and they gracefully gave me their curriculum to use as a base. But we added a lot more in our program around working with the unconscious bias of the astrologer, actually doing some healing work to understand how we might have unconscious patterns, and a lot more about cultural and diversity issues. So, but yeah, ESAR does have an excellent consulting skills program also.
Well, thank you for that differentiation, because it is, I like the very good. For myself, Talk Cosmos, next week I'll be talking by myself since Amanda's away, and I'm going to bring in some more about the moon mythology. Just be more of an expansive conversation besides the new and the full. And then on the 19th, I was glad to get Rick Levine. For the first time, I can really talk to him on a one-to-one and just tease his thoughts and brains on this basket that's happening that wants to
actually on the day. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah, it is. It is. And the past, there's various things that you can always find on the website. Everything from my Astro Jam mystery charts to another show I did by myself about time travel with Saturn Septune. Boy, get my tongue back in there. 6,000 years cycle. But on to now. We have the lunar nodes that are shifting on the 26th. This is after the basket, although it's still in effect. You can see it right here with the stars. And it is an impactful plug into our consciousness again, because it has a lot of patterns that are wanting to speak into our hearts and minds. With the moon that's trying to adjust to this Jupiter that's expanding our things. It always takes time to have our emotions catch up with stuff. And then,
Yeah. And people need to understand, I think, with the lunar nodes, when they change signs, they bring kind of a new agenda to us. And it happens about every year and a half. And the lunar nodes relate to eclipses. Eclipses happen near the nodes. And We talk about being eclipsed into something, or something changes radically and somewhat unexpectedly around eclipses. And it is generally for our best growth and evolution, although sometimes events are pretty strong and we're not ready for them. But the overall is that the transiting north node is where we're meant to focus our energies and develop, and the transiting south node is where we need to maybe let go of any shadow patterns there. So we've been in Pisces and Virgo for a year and a half, since the beginning of 2025. And that's been asking us to surrender and trust and come more fully into our spiritual and intuitive energy, into creativity, and letting go of Virgo shadow, which that tends to be worry and analysis and overthinking everything. And now for the nodes to move into Aquarius and Leo, we get a whole nother level, more of an intellectual level with Aquarius, of letting go and coming into authenticity, letting go of the ego drives and the image drives of Leo, I think is going to be a big part of this. And it is a little bit of a conflict that Jupiter is saying expand Leo, and the South Node is saying let go of Leo. But if you remember that we're being asked to expand the higher quality of
Yes,
Leo, and let go of the lower qualities of Leo, then there's no friction there.
that's true. And often life presents a situation that we're in conflict about, and in reflecting, how did that happen, or what is something that I personally can change, because that's really the only place you can change. You can recognize that maybe your thinking was more about the approval that you needed, rather than seeking that approval within, instead of demanding that you get this recognition, because it is subtle. We tend to not really see where we can run into trouble on some of these.
Yeah, that's a really good way of framing it, Sue. Like approval, like wanting approval from other people. That is connected into the ego image needs. But it's like that's very personal when we realize, am I willing to live my life freely and authentically, Aquarius, and do what I'm here to do what I'm here to do that relates to the Aquarian part of my chart. And I'm not going to worry about what family and friends and everybody else has to say about it or think about it. I'm just going to be fully myself. And that's really when you're coming into the positive of Aquarius North Node and Leo South Node.
With still recognizing the merit and dignity of other people, which is, so much of the Aquarian. There's a book by Mel Robbins that is from Hay House that is swept, one of the popular books. And it was on sale. So I thought, well, see what she has, check it out. But it is interesting because it's a two-step. You let them so you can let me. And I think that does go along with this thinking, is by, instead of whether it's the Libra part or whether it's the Leo, whatever energies are within a self that is focusing so much on the other, or the traditional with Capricorn. I mean, everybody's got their way into this little secret way of worrying much about other people. It's like, no, that's them. That's their situation. Allow that to be. And of course, it's easier said than done, but the gift of it, then let myself become or act or continue in understanding something that difference. Yeah. Well, let's see what more. We have Jupiter connecting 3 times exactly with the South Node. And I wish I would have put the degrees down, but as we know, April next year will be at later degrees. I could almost find out what they are right now. But the first one will be, if it's August 31st. No, this is a different one that I have. Never mind. Okay. But they will be moments, just as we were speaking of, that perhaps life will really throw in front of us emotionally, because Leo is, how you feel about yourself and the prize, whether it's your creativity or your child or etc., all these different things.
Well, I've just gone ahead quickly on my program, and the April one is around 16, 17 degrees for the joining of the South Node and Jupiter.
Oh, right in the middle.
Yeah, it'll be in the middle, because it will have gone way up to the end of Leo and then retrograded back to there and then starting to go forward and finish off.
I think, Kay, that is near the Venus star point, because the Venus star points in Leo are right about the middle. So it is, once again, is these kaleidoscope of emphases, but that, well, that's a ways off yet. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, we can know that we have moments to check ourselves. Back to the eclipses that you had brought up. Yes, there are quite a few. And I was surprised in this particular list. Look at all the solar eclipses. Usually there's a lunar in there. I was shocked. I don't know if I've ever seen that. And I don't know how, at any rate. But this summer in August, there'll be a total eclipse in Leo. Somewhere. And
I think it's around 20 degrees. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It'll be 20 degrees. Boy. Yes, 20 degrees on August 12th. Okay. So those are, the universe is offering us many opportunities, we could say, to really focus and seeing how that works because they're long lasting. There's a large spread of degrees, and it can, so that'll be between now and the 20, actually extending even because of Aquarius, they're going to be going into 27 and 28. The nodes won't be in January 26, 28. That might be out of, or is that? Yeah, because it's March. Oh, no, it will be at the very end, because it's all the way to March 26, 2028. And that last one is on the 26th in January.
Yeah. They usually extend, a little bit before the nodes are in signs and then a little after. So yeah, we've got some wonderful energy to think of, how we can expand and be creative and bring our beliefs into alignment with our soul path.
Yeah, it's help from the universe. That's good. Yeah. Well, Jupiter is part of this action too with Saturn. They have the 20-year cycle, which was last 2020, December 20th at my mind's skipping. At 0 degrees.
That was like the middle of December 2020, right? We were mid-pandemic, trying to figure out what was going on, and we'd had planets dancing around in Capricorn, changing the structure of our world in a very deep way. So yes, now I believe, right, they're coming into a trine. Is that Jupiter and Saturn in a trine, where the initiation, that launch of Aquarian energy, now from fire signs, they are working together. They're bringing about harmony, and many of the changes that may be birthed in your life or life of people around you. It's a good time to take stock.
It's true. It's not just ourselves. It's so important to remember other people. But in addition, Pluto and Uranus are also having a natural trine. The first one will be right on the 19th, I believe, and then there'll be about 3 or 5 others following it over the next course of years. So to have all these outer planets in this synergetic
Flow
And
state. They're working
yes.
together, so they're empowered to work together. And the thing to remember too is even though we put a lot of attention as astrologers on when an aspect is exact, these outer aspects are in play for many, many years, and they are changing society, changing our lives. We don't have to worry too much about what day it's exact or not exact, because we are, we're swimming in the energy. And when it's a
Mhm.
degree or 2 degrees separate, and it's not exact yet, there's still harmony between those planets.
Very important. Thank you, Kay. It's just
Mhm.
like a plant, the roots take time to build, and it takes time for the leaves to perhaps evolve, and then the flower, and then the seed of it. There's a whole process. Time is we tend to think so much on the calendar. Oh, I'll just reschedule or tear it off and go on. But it's very important.
Yeah. One of the things for people to know about is Richard Tarnas in his 2 huge books where he traced the philosophy of the world
Oh, yeah.
from Socrates and Plato to current times, and then the second book, Cosmos and Psyche, all the astrology. He found that planets, outer planets in aspect with a huge wide orb, I think it was even like 15 degrees, even out of
Mm.
sign, you could trace it to the major changes going on in society when they were traveling more or less together or more or less creating. So, for instance, with the Pluto Uranus squares, where there were 7 exact squares between 2012 and 2015, he believed that that testing point was actually 2008 to 2020.
Oh, I like it. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazingly, that's when Pluto was in Capricorn. So you
Yeah.
think of that whole spread of time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and vibrational astrology, which I am working on studying with Linda Barry, who works with David Cochran. He does orbs in proportion, but the conjunction is 16. But I like what Richard Tarnas says about this, because it's all vibrational, and it is, with life. And how did you know if the ocean is beginning to wave towards you or not? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, this is one of your slides, and we're ending with, we made it through all this stuff, but still, where is it in a person's chart? It's something, again, you've been bringing up so much, thankfully, for people to consider, because Leo is personal. It's one of the personal
Mhm.
planets, well, not planets, but signs.
It's a personal sign, but even if it's not a personal sign, when a planet is doing something in the sky and all the astrologers are talking about it and what will happen, the most important thing for you to do is to see where it is in your chart. What house? Are there planets there or angles there? What's it going to touch? And looking ahead and seeing what is ideally meant to happen and starting to think about that and put your plans into motion. And especially with Jupiter, to take advantage of the opportunities that you might have in that area of your chart. So be, be proactive, co-creative,
Oh,
not just sitting around and waiting for something to happen. Because Jupiter won't bring opportunities to you unless you have preparation, right? They say, luck has to do with being prepared and being there at the right moment.
I've heard many times, and I love this, I'm thinking about it, that the universe loves action. And when I think of just the fact of the evolution, if we go back to Darwin, that simply means that something began to change. So it was an action. So yes, it could be a tiny little thing, but it's true. For me, I have Pluto in the 11th, and it's in Leo. So I've been, at this time in life, I'm looking forward to changes. So yes, even with the unknown, I think that it'll be embrace, and your words of taking action, is very important. I hope people feel that, because that's where you can trust yourself and you have the empowerment. That's where you can make change, is with oneself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope everybody feels encouraged.
Yes.
The heart core.
Oh, like, yes, Leo the sun. And you know what? Every day the sun is moving. So we have that to anchor into and shine out. Thank you, Kay Taylor. And yeah, so I guess we'll tell everybody summer has begun. Your days have more hours, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And hope you go to UAC or enjoy life however it meets you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.